Welcome to Author Adventure.
Happy
Good afternoon, Liz. How
day.
are you doing?
Good afternoon, Russ. I'm doing great. You doing okay today?
Oh, fantastic. It's a beautiful day and we got another author in here we get to interview.
Yeah,
And
fun
some of
stuff.
the things are coming together, and also in the future, just to plant the seed, we're looking at doing an in-person event
Right.
in when's that going to take
We're gonna
place?
do we're gonna do the first week in December. So we're looking at December 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's actually a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So we're hoping some of y'all can come on out, and that event will actually be in Dallas, Texas, and we'll be sharing some information about that. But we kind of plan to have a prequel to that with a virtual workshop for like 2 days, a couple hours, 2 days, where you'll get some assignments,
Yep.
and then you'll have to turn those assignments in. So we'll give you a writing, a publishing, and a marketing assignment. So if you're thinking about writing that book and you want to get your book published in 2023, we have a couple of opportunities coming up here in October and November, and we certainly hope that you'll let us kind of help you do that and accelerate your process, because as we know, there are a lot of moving parts to publishing, and it can be overwhelming, when
Yeah.
you first get started.
And the other thing about it is, there's more to the publishing piece of the equation, just beyond just writing the copy and the content in the book. And
Right.
we want to make sure that you have a full array of tools in your toolbox to make sure that you're successful, you can get it out there, and you can make it happen and produce the results and the outcomes you're looking to accomplish, because everybody's goal may be a little different. However, some of these
Yeah.
things that you're not aware of, you're not used to doing, it's really nice to have a guide by your side. And Liz has been successful in so many publishing episodes that she's way beyond most experts in the field. So thanks, Liz, for sharing your expertise and knowledge. And
Well, you're
and
welcome.
myself, on the digital side, I've been doing this for a long time. So we're kind of teaming up and looking forward to helping as many people uh, in 2023 and the end of this year to get launching their
Yeah, to get
book
a
and
jump start.
making sure yeah.
They can maybe jumpstart their publishing plan, because that's the thing. I mean, everybody asks, what do you do first? And we always say, write, just write. But the reality is, even for the writing, you need to have a publishing plan. And
Mhm.
I mean, unless you just plan to write one book and go on, then maybe you don't need a plan. But if you plan to be an author and write multiple books, or you want that author career to be successful and you want to make money with that, as we talked about, you can write for free or you can write for profit. And most of what we're talking about is entrepreneurship and profit, and writing to maybe have a business or create a side business, which is going out and selling your book and telling people your story and using your story to help people. And even Carol, today we're going to be talking with Carol. We're talking about
Yep.
Christian fiction, but this fiction story has real life ramifications and real life application. And so we'll be talking about that later with her. But I think before we do that, Russ has got our secret today, as we talked about. This is the art and business of publishing, because publishing is a business and it's an art. And we think there are 5 secrets. We think there's writing, there's publishing, there's launching, there's marketing, and distribution. So Russ is going to share like maybe a quick funnel for launching. If you're launching your book, you need to set up some things ahead of time to do that.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that we have some of these things in place in advance, because there's a lot of room to cover and a lot of things that are going to take place as you develop your message in your book. However, you can't really produce the results and the outcome you're looking for unless you have a strategy on launching. And what we've done and what we're going to continue to do is talk about these 5 secrets in the process. And then also in any live events or any virtual events, we're going to go a little deeper into those activities. However, today, what I wanted to share with you is I wanted to plant the seed of launching your book. Now, one of the things that is really incredibly powerful, and there's a couple of things you can do, is actually have some real estate online that people can find you and people can actually locate you. And maybe it's as simple as a landing page. It could be your social media could also be part of the equation. You could actually create a Facebook page. And more important than that is start developing relationships with individuals that can help you succeed in your launch. You know, we call it a street team.
Right.
And there's a lot of people out there that they may not have people that can help them. However, you can find friends. There's always somebody out there willing to assist and support you in your journey. And I just really encourage you to start early, acquire the real estate on social media. So if you want to create a Facebook group or a Facebook page, or you have Twitter account, or you have a YouTube account, or any of these social media platforms where you could actually tie your book into those platforms, and then you can drop content out to those platforms. So some of these things start showing up. One of my favorite platforms is LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a really good social media platform for SEO. And so if you put your book out there, you create your profile, and then you create your page, and you include your book, your title, and some of the things that people might be searching for as a result of reading your book or become interested in your book, then those things, those terms and those search terms will start to get up in the search ranks for your book. And also sharing the title of your book and talking about it, getting on shows just like this, getting on podcasts, talking about the subject, and anything you can do in advance of launching, and telling people that you're going to be launching. You want people to be involved and engaged in the content and the reason why it's important for them. It's not about you. It's about what the individual is going to receive out of your book and what they're going to receive out of your content and the message you're going to share. Even if it's a fiction book, you know, there's a lot of enjoyment people receive from reading books, producing a little bit of relaxation in their life, and maybe some encouragement and inspiration. You don't know who's going to be watching for this, who needs to hear it. And if you can help a few people out throughout the journey, then you're going to be miles ahead when it comes to continuing to promote and produce results for your book. So have I missed anything, Liz? Is there anything else you'd like to add to the equation and make sure that we have
involved in doing that?
What's that?
We fell out for a minute. I don't know if it was my internet or if it was, were you still going? Or were you
I was still going. I was going strong. So you should be good. We should be good. So hopefully if there's any drops or anything like that, hey, this is the way we're live. This is a live recording. So
right. So and that's the thing. If something happens, I mean, you just keep going. You don't quit. You don't give up. You don't stop. You just try to get it fixed and you try to move on. So that's a good lesson for anybody that's trying to accomplish something. Because even when you're writing that book, you're gonna have days where you don't want to write anything, and that's okay. But you always got to come back to it, and you got to get it finished. At some point you have to say it's good enough, and you got to put it out there and let people do. And that's what Carol did. So let's bring our guest on today. We're going to be talking with Carol S. Lacey, and Carol is a Christian fiction writer. And so she actually has created a series of 3 books. And so her series is called The Snare of the Fowler. It's a series, and she's launched book 1. Hi, Carol. How are you today? Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Liz. Thank you so much for having me.
So this will be fun. So we actually, like you say, we were just talking about the street team, and you actually did that, didn't you? You actually got some friends of yours or family, and most people were real happy to help, weren't they? You didn't have anybody that said, "Get away from me."
No, they were all very excited for me.
Yeah, so we are excited, and we're excited to say that Carol is our 113th #1 Amazon bestseller. She's #1 in hot new releases for religious history. history is a part of her thing, or her whole story. And so she's going to be telling us more about that. So the book is called Ensnared by, the series is called the Snare of the Fowler. The book one is called Ensnared by Evil. You can see that right here on the screen. So when you go to Amazon, you look for this beautiful cover that her grandson did. And so tell us a little bit, Carol, how did you come up with this story? And were you always a writer, or is this something you came to later in life?
Well, it's yes and no. I've always wanted to write, but I got saved when I was 35. So I had a big hunger to know God. And as I went through the Bible, I read that story that we're basing this on in Acts 16, where a young woman who has an evil spirit is harassing the Apostle Paul. And it just made, I just started thinking about, you forget that these are real people, that we're going to see them in heaven one day. And you just I just started thinking about what happened to her? Why was she demon possessed? What brought this all about? And then when I was teaching women's Bible studies, and then finally there came a day when that was done, and the Lord said, okay, now you can write. So then I just started writing her story.
And you have an unusual story there too, don't you? Kind of tell us that story about how you really knew that writing was your next phase.
Well, I had been teaching women's Bible studies and enjoying that very much, but my husband retired, and I didn't feel like I had the time and privacy to write like I wanted, or to do study. And so I told my groups that I was going to just be a part of them, not the teacher. And so then the Lord said to me, okay, you can write now.
Yeah, right. Great. So I think you were taking a walk or something, weren't you?
Oh, that story.
You got a sign. You got a pretty clear sign, and sometimes it happens this way. Sometimes it's a quiet voice that speaks to us, or our heart, or maybe we meet somebody and they say something to us. And sometimes you're just out in a quiet place by yourself.
I was enjoying writing so much that I started wondering if this was what God really wanted me to use my time for, because it was just out on one of my prayer walks, and just really taking that before the Lord. And I looked down the street a couple houses, and there was a sign that said, resume writing. Well, as I got closer, of course, it said resume writing, but it didn't matter. God had spoken and given me permission to write.
He's giving you permission to write. So that's it. So if you're listening today, you're watching this and you're waiting for permission, well, Carol and I are here to give you permission too. We obviously, if you're writing a spiritual related thing, we want you to have a conversation with God, but maybe you're writing nonfiction or children's books. And so we're here to give you permission to do that, especially if you've got something you think will help other people. And that's the thing with Carol. Even though she's writing a fiction story, she's created this whole backstory for this young lady named Daphne, who she's named as the Sorceress. We don't really know her name, but she's created this backstory, this family, and a whole situation. And we're not going to give it away and tell you everything, but we want you to go to Amazon.com, and you can put Amazon.com/DP/B0BGQGQLZR for the ebook. And I'm spelling that out because this is also a podcast. So somebody may just be listening to it, but you can always come back and watch the recording. And this will be in the show notes, but you can go to Amazon. You can look it up. It's Carol S. Lacey. That's CAROLS Lacey, LACEY. So Carol S. Lacey, Ensnared by Evil. It's a great ride. It's just astonishing. I mean, I'm reading through and I'm going, oh my gosh. Well, that's perfect. Oh, there's that verse. Oh, that's perfect. I've read that verse before. I never connected it. Wow, that's really cool, you know. And so, I mean, Carol did a fabulous job of using little short verses of scripture at the beginning of each chapter. But I mean, it is right on to what that chapter is about and what she's talking about, what the situation is. So, so kind of what's your writing process, Carol, for somebody that's listening that maybe they want to write something, but they're not sure kind of how to do that. Did you just start writing, or you kind of took that Act 16 and just embellished on it, didn't you?
Well, I did. And actually, book 2 follows the Acts 16 story more right to the end of the chapter. But I just, I knew what the story was, and I knew where it began, and I knew where it ended.
Right.
But I didn't know what was going to happen in between. And I don't make a plan it all out. I write by the seat of my pants, and what the characters kind of do is what comes out.
Right. They kind of tell you what to do, don't they? They kind of take on
do.
a life of their own in your mind or in your pen, in your hand or whatever. And, you know, I still kind of write longhand. Some people write on the computer. I mean, even some people can take notes on their phone. I don't know how people do that, but you can. And today, you don't really have an excuse not to write.
No.
You can even record on your phone if you don't like to write. You can record or just talk your story and then have it transcribed and then put in a written version of something, you know. So the technology today just is really, really helpful to writers. It's helpful as you're editing, because as you always find out, you load things, you start looking at it, you're proofing things, and you always find something. It may be a comment, maybe a misspelled word, it may be a word that sounds the same but is spelled different, you know, and you just got to keep doing. But at some point you have to say, this is good enough. I'm going to put it out there. I hope people like it. And I know they're going to love your story, Carol, because it's very exciting. It's just mind boggling how you came up with all these characters and stuff. And we did put a character list in the back because these are Greek. You had the setting. Go ahead and tell us about a little bit about the setting and how you found out about the research that you did, I guess, to support the book.
Well, when you read what the commentaries say in your Bible about her, about the demon-possessed slave girl, it says she had a spirit of Apollo or Apollonian, a spirit of divination. And so as I checked that out, the Apollo temple, there were a lot of them in Greece, but but the one in Delphi, Greece, was where the divination was famous. I mean, you know, according to history, kings and huge people, you know, important people came there to get wisdom.
Right.
And so I had her born in Delphi, and her family was going, you know, to were part of the temple, and so that's where it began. And just as the more I researched things that happened in that era, it happens like it's in 51 AD. So it's like 15 years or so after Jesus was crucified.
Right.
So that brought wisdom about what the demons might be trying to pull off.
Right.
And use her and destroy people's knowledge that they could run to Christ for anything. So I hope that comes across in the book, that God is so much more powerful than the evil spirits that try to deceive and distort truth. So I'm hoping that comes across, that people will be more aware of it. I think I lost you, Liz.
Liz must be having a challenge with her internet today.
Yeah.
So while she's coming back online, maybe what we could do is I loaded some pictures up here, and I was going to have you talk a little bit about those pictures and some of the things that you have going on. But in some of the research, it looks like you have some locations here that are pretty interesting to me. I mean, like this one here, it looks like Greece as well.
That is the Apollo Temple. My husband and I went for 3 weeks in Greece and went to Delphi, where she was born, and to Athens, where the slave market was. And then she was taken to Philippi, where the story in Acts 16 talks about. So that's a picture of me in front of the Apollo Temple, the ruins that are still there.
Wow. That must have been a wonderful trip. It looks like
it was awesome. You know, it's so beautiful in Greece. I'd go back in a minute. But
and then we have this one here on the steps of looks like what is a historic location as well.
That's at the Apollo Temple too. They called it the Sacred Way, and you walked up those steps and into the temple as you got to the top. Which, of course, the temple is gone. It's just the pillars now.
Wow!
But it was fun for me, because after I started writing, I really wanted to go to Greece and see some of these things. And so I finally got to go.
Well, it looks like Liz is back.
Well, so thanks. Yeah, my internet crashed completely. I mean, I completely went away. That's never happened before.
Yeah.
But
now we know. Now we know that it was your connection, not my connection.
It was me. It was me. Well, I know y'all had a great time, and that is, that backstory is important for interest and for people to understand that, that this is a global world that we live in, and there are other cultures and there are other influences. And even though this is a fiction book, it does have, like you say, relevance for people's lives. It's Daphne struggling with choices. And like you mentioned, Jesus had been resurrected for 15 years, and they were beginning to hear. The people were hearing about this guy named Jesus, and the Paul and the other apostles, and Peter and James and John and Andrew and the 11 apostles that were with Jesus. They went out in the mission field. Right. They went out into these areas to share the gospel with people. And so, like I was mentioning, even though I was crashing, there was an unknown God in Greece.
Oh, yeah, there were
many of those gods. And so Paul was smart enough to say, well, I'm here representing the God of creation, what you call the unknown God.
Right.
But he's real, Right. And so that's really important. And so tell us a little bit. So, Carol, it's a 3-book series.
Right.
And the first book is kind of early life. And then what's the second and third book, just so people get a little bit of taste of what's coming?
All right. After she becomes, she's demon possessed, and then she becomes a slave through some sad situation in her family, and is sold into slavery and taken to Athens, where these 3 men who buy her and take her to Philippi. And so the first story ends with her, the first book ends with her being taken away from Athens into Philippi, where the Acts story takes place. Mm-hmm. And right. so when she gets there, she has to learn how to use this power of hearing this demon. He's very willing to help her lead people astray, and she can do it through fortune telling, and that keeps her from having to be the kind of slave that's grubbing out in the ground all the time. She's more protected, and so she goes through that whole agonizing hating being used by this demon, but torn because it's her safety belt. Mm-hmm. So the second book is all what happens to her and ends with what happens in Acts 16.
Right. Okay, great. So she actually meets Paul toward the end of the book there, and they have this this encounter, and then the third book is kind of, I guess, maybe what happens after that as a result of this encounter.
Yeah, Paul speaks into her life, and she takes it very seriously, and so she goes back to Delphi to try to help the people there who are steeped in mythology realize that there is one true God. And so that's a lot of adventure in that. And wasn't always welcome news.
Right. That's right. Yeah. It wasn't, you know.
She followed what God told her to do. So what, you know, it'll be interesting when I meet her in heaven, if I got her story straight at all.
Right, that's right. You'll be able to find out how close the story was to that.
Right.
So that's really great. So Carol basically has an ebook and a paperback book. They're both available on Amazon. We're running a special deal right now for a few days because we're trying to rank up there in the #1 rankings. We're actually at #1 in hot new releases. And then she was moving up 9, 8, 7 in the bestseller categories. And Amazon's interesting because it allows you 2 or 3 different categories, kind of 2 main categories, which we chose: religious history and spiritual warfare, because that's what this book is really about. And so those are 2 of the categories that we chose. So Carol's doing really great in those categories, but we need your help. So if you're listening today or watching, we want you to go and buy her book on Amazon. Once you read the book, we know you're going to love it. We know you're going to want to come back and give it a 5-star review, because the reviews really help other people, new people that are looking for a good book to read. And so they do go and look at the reviews, and you've already gotten some 5-star reviews. And so we hope that you'll buy this book. You'll go to Amazon. You'll check that out. It's Carol S. Lacey. That's CAROLS Lacey, and it's called Ensnared by Evil. So you can just put her name in or that title in, and it'll come up as well. Or if you're watching the show or you got the show notes, you can just copy and paste it, because we'll put that information there. Well, Carol, what if somebody that maybe is watching and they're thinking about writing a book and they've always wanted to write a book, what would you tell them? Do you have an encouraging word or something you'd share with them about that?
If they I guess I would say, if you know in your heart this is what God wants you to do, if you feel that, you know, that peace, that this is, yes, it's okay, I would say just get started. Just start writing. Write every day that you can. And above all, read good books by good writers. You learn a lot from other people's writing. And join a critique group, even if you're just getting started, because people see things in your writing that you miss, and it's like, oh, right, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, where did you go from here to here? How did you jump from this spot to this spot? Wait a minute, I think there's something missing here. Tell me what happened, you know, because
right.
Yeah, and that's happened. And then do you have like the characters, did you have a character that kind of like showed up more often than you thought they would? Or was it mostly Daphne in the?
Well, it's mostly Daphne, but the high priest, the second high priest in the story, became a real stinker.
Right.
and he was very persistent and very real. And so I guess that would be the answer to that one.
Right. So sometimes they do. So sometimes the characters take on a life of their own. You don't really plan for them to be that big a part. And then all of a sudden they start kind of nudging their way in and saying, tell my story. And you have to follow the writing muse. I mean, when you have that creative ideas and thoughts, when those things come to your mind, you get in the flow of things, and things just kind of start to happen, I think, too, you know, when you're open to whatever comes, you know, when you open your mind up and say, you know, show me what to write, or let me just be an instrument, you know, of the message, the story, then, you know, because that's a lot of the time, you know, we're just a vehicle.
Absolutely.
For God's grace and God's glory and what he has for people to learn. And so, like I say, even though this is a fiction story, I think it has a lot of relevance for today and for people living today. Don't you, Carol? Excuse me. And so we hope you'll go, and you'll go to Amazon. Like I say, I mean, 30 minutes goes by so fast, and we're already at the end of our time. But I'm so sorry. I'm having all kinds of issues today. But but we hope that you'll come back. We're here each week at 5 o'clock on Tuesdays, talking to authors, allowing them to share their stories. And Carol, if there's one last thing you want the listeners to hear, what would that be?
Well, I think just seeking God about what he wants you to do, as you take these things before him, when you have that peace, that is so important, that you feel, it in your spirit that this is the right thing for you, and to follow that, just boldly follow that path. I mean, I've been writing this story for a long time. I didn't know it was going to be 3 books, but it got longer and longer. It had to be more.
Right, each time,
but,
yeah.
There's a peace that comes when you're walking in God's plan for your life.
Right. Yeah. So, well, we're grateful. We're grateful that Carol listened to the Lord. We're grateful that Carol, wrote this story. She's, like you say, she spent years writing this story, researching this story, and now it's finally here. It's published. So we're very pleased for her. We're especially pleased that she could touch it and hold it in your hand, because there's nothing like holding the book in your hand, is it? Have you got it there, Carol? Hold it up there for us. Okay. So that's it. So Carol S. Lacey, Ensnared by Evil. We hope you'll check that out on Amazon, Amazon.com. You can visit there. You can go to Carol's website. It's www.carollacey.com. So that's the CAROLLACEY. And she blogs there. She writes about things that are happening each week or so, or month in her life, weekly. And so she'll be sharing other insights and spiritual insights with you. So hopefully you'll go and check that out. You'll want to join her website and join her mailing list, because she's going to be coming out with a second book probably next year in 2023. Hopefully spring or summer. And then she'll have the third book following up that in the fall, hopefully for the Christmas holidays in 2023. So this is a great book. It's a great gift item. If you've got somebody in your life that likes to read, and they read fiction especially, this would be a great story for them, because it's got intrigue. It's got maybe some suspense, and possibly, and maybe some romance. I mean, it's, they're always wanting to marry you off, and and things like that, in the ancient histories. And they did marry young, and they did that. A lot of times the family made decisions for people. So if you're not much of a history buff, you'll learn a lot of stuff just by reading this book, won't you, Carol?
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
I try very hard to make sure that my research that comes out in the book, that it was what I could discover by visiting Greece and getting on the internet, where you can find out a lot of things.
Right. Well, and we want to say too, right here at the end, before we finish up, that Carol's husband was very supportive all these years, and she lost him. He's gone to heaven. And that picture you saw of the gentleman in the clouds that we showed earlier, that is a fabulous picture that just was taken by chance, wasn't it? And Carol's going back through some of her photos and stuff, and she's found this wonderful picture of her husband. And obviously this book's dedicated to him, because he was such a great influence and a spiritual support for her. And he lived the life of a spiritual and a godly man. And so he was supportive of her and her writing. And so we appreciate that very much. And we know that he's smiling in heaven today, and he's very proud of you too, as are we, and all your family and friends. So I hate to close up, but we're at our end of our time. So Carol, thank you for being here. You can always come back and listen to the recording, or you can tell your friends and family. They can go back to the YouTube channel, and they can just search Author Adventure, and it should come up. And or they can maybe search your name, and it should come up too. So this has been Liz Lawless, your host for Author Adventure, with Russ Johns, our co-host, and we'll see you next week. We're here every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, talking to these fabulous authors whose adventure is always a little bit different. But, so whatever you're doing, whatever way you write, whatever way you research, whatever way you want to publish, whether that's traditionally or self-publishing or getting some help, all of those opportunities are available for you today. We just encourage you to start early, building a team of people, to start, and start writing. If you're not writing, start writing. And just keep writing and editing. And like Carol mentioned, get you a critique group, get you some friends or family or people that are interested in the subject too, and listen and learn, because there's nothing that you can't learn yourself by going online. There are a lot of good videos and YouTubes and other programs. And so we encourage you, if you want to be an author, today you can be an author, you can create your own audience. And you can always come here to Author Adventure and get some creative thoughts from other authors that have already done the work, have already published, and now they're moving into that marketing phase. So come back here and we'll share the secrets. And hopefully one day you'll be a best-selling author like Carol S. Lacey. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks.